Okay, two things I want to talk about in the gaming news world this week. The Nintendo Switch 2, I know it's being revealed like if you're watching this video on Wednesday. I'm going to save reactions for that in a separate video, so keep your eyes peeled. But the two other news stories this week that were kind of buzzing in my brain is this first one, a quote from a Netflix executive. There's this new gaming newsletter, The Game Business. It's headed up by Christopher Drink, pretty high profile, like real actual journalist. And he did an interview with president of games at Netflix, Elaine Tuscan, if I'm saying that right. And here's the big quote. Here's the money quote here. When it comes to console, we started to look at the future where the platform is agnostic. Look at the younger generation. Are 8-year-olds and 10-year-olds dreaming of owning a PlayStation 6? I am not sure. They're wanting to interact with any digital screen, whatever it is, wherever it is, even in the car. With console, you're thinking about high definition, you're thinking about the controller. If we look at this older model, I think it will restrain us. So that's a lot. That's big words, man. The fact that he said that thing right there where he's like, are kids, are 8-year-olds, 10-year-olds dreaming of owning a PlayStation 6? I don't think so. And on the one hand, as much as it pains me to say, I'm inclined to agree. Now, I do have a little bit of a blind spot here. I don't have kids. I don't interact with kids. As joyful and childlike as I am, I tend to avoid them. But the kids I do know, the kids I've experienced, and even having younger siblings and seeing how they grew up, yeah, there's a little bit less, dependency or really loyalty to a plastic box or excitement around a plastic box. So on the one hand, I do think it's good that like the will to game is still strong, but things are changing. Obviously, Fortnite you can play anywhere. Kids are still hooked on Fortnite. Roblox is just like a regular old computer game. And then kids on phones and iPads, and they're addicted to that shit. So it's definitely like he's not making a totally off base assumption, right? And at the end of the day, especially a company like Netflix, they're really just pursuing the bottom line, like the bottom of the barrel bottom line, and following trends and looking at the future. So yes, I think for what they're trying to do, what audience they're trying to acquire, they're going to be doing that. Now, again, as the president of games and stuff, like I do think Netflix already is in a weird position because they've tried stuff, they've hired studios, they've done stuff, and not a lot has really come of it. They've done some good publishing stuff here and there, and they're experimenting with getting their stuff on Netflix, on the TV, on the app, which, again, that's why he's biased towards this, because that's their main bread and butter, right? On your like Roku app, your smart home app, or maybe even your Netflix app on your PlayStation, whatever. Like that's where people are going. But I wonder, like on the one hand, I'm like, yeah, okay, but like you guys haven't even really put out a decent game. But on the other hand, they've also, I guess, seen how expensive and how much work it takes to make a big game, which is why maybe he's speaking to this whole concentration of kids and where they are and the being agnostic of platforms. Case in point also, I mean, like look at Xbox and Microsoft. We've talked so much, like we've talked to death about Xbox's approach for the future, right? And how they are, as much as they keep saying like, yeah, we're still going to make hardware, it seems like now their process is beyond the hardware. They're less excited about the hardware and they're more into publishing games, making games, backing games, having their fingers in all these games and getting them out to as many screens as possible. That whole like this device, this is an Xbox, this is an Xbox. Like Netflix is probably thinking the same thing here. Now, on the other hand, I think it's interesting, and I've seen some good rebuttals to this and stuff I do kind of agree with, where some people will be like, oh, that's it. This is the beginning of the end. Consoles are going away, right? Or even games for our generation is going away. I wouldn't necessarily say that because I think there's room for a lot. Now, again, I'm not saying this as any analyst, expert, or anything like that, but just someone who, yeah, I consume shit all day. I feel like you can't just go for the kids. You can't always just look to that future generation because they don't have any money. Yes, their parents do, but ultimately their parents do, and they're spending it on their own stuff sometimes too, right? Or people who don't have kids, rather. Just like older adults have income, they buy things, they're buying all these things, they're buying the movie tickets to go see all these big franchises and stuff like that. You know, it's essentially what I'm trying to say is like I think there's room for both in this world. Movies aren't made just for children. There are movies for children, there are movies for adults. There are, there's music for children, music for adults. There's books for children and books for adults. So I think there is different markets. And I think the distribution is still always going to be a little more complicated. I think the method of delivery for the time being is still going to be a little all over the place. I think we are going to see things like Xbox and Netflix and probably some others pivot to this, platform agnostic, just always in the cloud or just always out there on every screen type of model. But I still do see some companies, like namely PlayStation for a while, but really Nintendo, just still hammering home on selling a console that you buy and this device plays the video games. That might change, that might evolve more than we even know because we don't know the future. But I think there's room for both. I don't think because even though I agree, he says that kids aren't excited about a PlayStation 6 necessarily, I think there are still plenty of people that will embrace a PlayStation 6. What's the meme? What's the joke? Fuck them kids, right? But in all seriousness, that's going to be a great clip out of context. But I just think that there is more to that quote and not necessarily gloom and doom. At the end of the day, even still, some people find that quote scary if, you're a fan of consoles. I think ultimately, as long as people are still engaged and playing video games, I'm still happy. And I say that as someone who likes physical media, who likes consoles and stuff like that, but realize that it's we are aging out a little bit, they're all going to kill us eventually. But yeah, look, after all that rambling, I think it is an interesting quote. It can sting, it can bite at players like you and me, but there's also some truth to it. But also, I don't think it's all doom and gloom. That's my conclusion. Also, Netflix, call us when you make an awesome game, because you sure spent a hell of a lot of money and haven't really come up with much yet. So I'm still waiting in the wings here, dudes. The other thing I wanted to talk about this week, Mind's Eye got a new trailer. If this game wasn't on your radar, it was revealed last year, and this newest trailer just showcases more of it. And a lot of people are comparing it to Grand Theft Auto 6, but it's not necessarily like an open world crime game. I think at first glance, you could see the glitz, the glamour, the cars, the guns, and think that. But what this game is really more of a single player action adventure thriller that's fairly linear. But what's interesting about this is that this is from Build a Rocket Boy, the studio behind Everywhere. This big concept, and a studio led by Leslie Benzies, one of the original Rockstar Games guys, a guy whose DNA is in Grand Theft Auto, and also he was the head of Rockstar North. He had left to make this initiative called Everywhere, but we haven't really heard a lot about that recently. That's going to be more of an overarching platform, a kind of Roblox MMO live service thing, like a Roblox for adults. That's kind of what the going phrase is. But this is a separate thing. It's seemingly maybe built out of the Everywhere thing, or maybe is kind of an initiative for that, but this is a standalone, real, genuine game. Or at least that's what they're saying it is. A lot of it does look really, really flashy. And when a game like this comes out now, a game you're just a cool guy, it's a single player adventure, you play through it, you're done, you're thrilled. I'm skeptical because those are the types of games I really love, and I feel like we don't always see them as much as we used to, or when we do, they're kind of janky, or they're Unreal Engine weird stuff. I don't know. It's all over the place. So I hope this is something cool because it's got some cinematics. It looks like it's got good performance capture, good actors, good production quality, car chases, shootouts, killer drones, sci-fi elements. It's checking all of my boxes. But I'm still curious about how this is. They keep hammering down. Leslie Benzies and other people have done studio interviews and stuff saying that it's a tightly crafted experience. That's their words. A tightly crafted game, thought-provoking story. Developers had also thrown around 15, 20 hours or so, something like that, without any filler or fluff. And that sounds good. I'm just really curious because that other thing they were working on, the whole Everywhere thing, just didn't really appeal to me. It kind of felt like this weird NFT blockchain live service metaverse thing, Look, I think it's great that they're trying to make a creative platform, like how people mod GTA Online or how kids would make things in Roblox. There is potential there, but we've seen companies try that before. Either way, though, if that's something that they pitch to people and then they get funding and then they're able to make this cool game, this cool experience, or this potentially cool game, I'm interested in that. I'm still skeptical, but like the trailer did give it a June release date, so we can at least check it out soon. And I just hope it's something cool. Honestly, I don't know what to think, but as skeptical as I am, I do like that it's being published by IO Interactive. They're the people, of course, behind the Hitman games most recently, and also some of my personal favorites like Freedom Fighters and the original Hitman games and Kane and Lynch and a bunch of things, right? So I've always liked their approach to things, and here with them publishing this, I'd like to almost give IO Interactive the benefit of the doubt. They do have some goodwill with me personally. Like I like how they approach things. I like the way they make games. So if they see something with this and they see what they're saying here is a tightly crafted, thrilling single player action adventure game and they're backing it, then cool. And how this is going to tie into everywhere or whatever remains to be seen. I don't really care as much about that project. I just hope this adventure is cool. If you want to read up on it, everything I talk about is linked in the description down below. Those are the two things I did want to talk about, but one little thing I wanted to slide in here, I really should just make a separate channel for this because if I'd made a dedicated video on a gaming channel, it would tank it. But I want to talk about movie stuff. They just announced that John Wick 5 is a go. I am someone who feels very strongly about the John Wick franchise, and I knew this was coming. They've joked about it, they've talked about it, they've mentioned it in interviews and Keanu Reeves and saying things, and now it is official. Keanu Reeves is returning, and the director is Chad Stahelski, which is good. Like a lot of the original people seem to be returning, and they're firing the machine back up. Okay, so here's the thing. I'm gonna spoil John Wick Chapter 4. I thought it was a really, really good movie. The original John Wick is art. It is perfect. It is simple. It is like a well-oiled, great machine. It establishes fun little universe building things, but it doesn't go insane with it, right? It exists as its own thing perfectly. If it has sequels, great. John Wick 2 and 3 had some cool moments, some great action, but it didn't really grip me or compel me that much, and whatever. John Wick 4 felt like a good marriage of 1, 2, and 3, where it had some of the cool, more chill aspects of 1 and the craziness of 2 and 3 and more world building, but in a way that I think just finally really connected. It all came together. And with all that, it killed John Wick. I was so happy to see that. I want this fucking guy to die. I know people don't want to hear that, but Keanu Reeves is getting older, and I think that all good things must come to an end. Breaking Bad finished its story and wrapped it up. Better Call Saul had a story it wanted to tell. It finished that story and wrapped it up. A lot of things do. There's a lot of other examples, but then there's plenty of things that go on forever. Fucking Grey's Anatomy. I don't like games that have a million billion sequels, right? John Wick 4 gave John Wick a cool end, a cool death. Now I know he kind of like slumped over and it was an implied death, and yeah, you can do that bullshit if you want, but I felt like it was an earned death. I feel like they built up to it and really, really earned it. And I think a lot of big legacy characters get their end, get their big noble death. And it doesn't always hit, but with John Wick 4, I think it did. So for them to bring him back for 5 because they just fucking can't help themselves, I knew it was going to happen, but still, I'm like skeptical. What I think they can do here, because Keanu Reeves is going to be like over 60 now at this point when he works on this one, they could pivot to old John Wick, old man Wick, or something like that. I think that would actually be kind of cool. So maybe I'm contradicting myself a little bit, but there's a way to do it. I think I would just like them to do it in a way where it's not just John Wick again in a bulletproof suit doing the same thing with new little quirky characters dropped in here and there. I think they can only get so much juice out of that. They got to do something different here. And they are kind of saying that with their announcement, right? They said they're setting up like a new, like a new step for the whole John thing, his story, whatever. Okay. The other thing that is cool is that Donnie Yen is getting a spin-off movie. I thought his character was the best thing in John Wick 4. The best, like, cool character they introduced to that world, in my opinion, other than John Wick. And his scenes were incredible. I'm also incredibly biased because Donnie Yen, I think, is like one of the GOATs. Ip Man, that is an incredible series. I've talked about that a lot on this channel. So for him to get his own movie, a spin-off, and he's directing it, absolutely awesome. I think they should have done this before they did the ballerina thing. I'm still going to watch the ballerina, but I have way more interest in a Donnie Yen thing because they set him up so well and he was so cool in chapter 4. So we'll just have to wait and see where this goes, right? We can all watch movies while the world burns. But let me know in the comments what you think about everything I talked about this week. John Wick, of course, but the gaming stuff with the Netflix quote. That's crazy. Do you really think, do you know kids? Do you speak to children? Do you have children? Are they excited about a PlayStation 6? Are you trying to get them excited about consoles and it's just not working because they have that big iPad in their face? Let's talk about this stuff. Also, let me know what you think about that Mind's Eye game. Are you skeptical like me? It could potentially be cool. We'll just have to wait and see. So let's talk about any of this stuff. Hit me up. I'll be down in the comments as much as possible. But of course, you can always find me on social media. Everywhere, just look up my name. But keep your eyes peeled for a Nintendo Switch 2 video of some sort, reactions, impressions, I don't know. But very soon on this channel. For now, though, I've rambled for quite a bit. So I'll leave you with that. Thank you for sticking around, watching me just talk about stuff I like, stuff I find interesting. Clicking the like button helps. I appreciate that. But I'm Jake Baldino. Subscribe because video games, pizza's on me. See ya.